설정해서 한국어로 설정해야 될 거야. 크로스 한국어. 야오스. 이전에 더 스탠리 패러블을 플레이해본 적이 있으신가요? 네. 컴퓨터가 거의 보이지 않을 때까지 슬라이더를 조정했어요. 싫어. 이 정도 할 건데? 현재 시간 입력하세요. 현재 시간 입력해야 돼, 이거? 뭐야, 이거 시간에 따라서 뭐가 달라지나? 8시 46. 뭐야? 뭐야? 46 홀리. 접근성 기능은 메인 메뉴에서 설정할 수 있습니다. 알겠답니다. Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe 한번 해보도록 하겠습니다. 해보죠. 스킵하려면
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
들어봐야겠죠.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
행복했으면 된 거 아닐까?
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
자, 가보죠. 시작은 스탠리 패러블이랑 똑같네. 시작은 똑같은데 이게 또
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
일단
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
자막이 깔끔해졌어.
Simply missed a memo.
일단은 또 두 개의 문 나오는 거 아니야? 나오네.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
처음은 말을 들어볼까요?
on his left.
뭐가 달라진 거지? 일단 기믹들이 뭐 추가됐다고는 하니까 일단은 가보도록 하죠. 뭐야 이거?
Yet there was not a single person here either.
일단은
disbelief. Stanley decided to go up to his boss's
한글화가
office,
많이 됐어요,
hoping he
그죠?
might find an answer there.
깔끔하죠 한글화? 핵심 지출 최고 4분기 파트 차트 파이 차트 수익 뭐야 청소도 구함. 나 왔던 데로 이제 사무실 가보죠.
Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
네. 사장의 화장실. 2845겠지 뭐 비밀번호.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
틀렸다.
Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held? Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk.
뭔가 좀 깔끔해진 것 같아.
Anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few
음악 나오는
moments
것도 똑같고요.
with some calming new age music.
음악도 똑같네요, 심지어. 여기 술 먹을 수 있을까? 안 되나 보다. 뭔가 기믹이.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked
뭐야.
into the opened passageway.
이거 안 이랬는. 원래 이렇게 불이 꺼지지 않았었는데 왜 갑자기 꺼지는 거지? 좋아요. 가보죠. 오케이, 내려갑시다. 한글화는 잘 됐다. 한글화 잘 됐고 무슨 기믹들이 있을지 또 봐야겠어요.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature
자기
of
직업의
his job.
본질의 의문을
Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
무슨 기믹이?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
일단 하나씩 다 가보죠. 이게 여기까지 왔다가 결국 여기 똑같을 거야. 여기 정신지배기관.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold?
새끼들 이렇게 똑같이 만들고
Did he have the strength to find out?
26,000원을 사용하게? 너무한 거 아니야? 이럴 거면 DLC로 싸게 팔던가. 모니터 원래 안 보였을걸?
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place.
저기는 왜 파랗게 돼 있어?
Nothing.
뭐지? 직원 번호 234. 234번 왜 파랗게 돼 있지?
This mind control facility,
427?
it was too horrible to believe it couldn't be true.
직원 번호 427.
Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
나 넘어갑시다.
No.
No.
He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it.
해적.
His own life
해적은
in
뭐야?
someone else's control.
해적이 있어 여기?
It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
자, 올라가는 중. 결국 뭐 똑같은데?
Here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content.
아니,
walking, eating,
달라?
working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power.
처음이니까 말을 듣고요. 다음부터는 이제 말 절대 안
듣겠습니다. The controls once and for all.
절대 안 듣지. 시스템 파워 오프. 자, 오프 해볼게요. 말은 들으면 죽냐고요? 죽진 않아요. 첫 번째 거 안 보셨구나. 뭐야? 죽은 거 아니지?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
이걸로 끝인 걸까요?
Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine. Unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all.
그래픽은 똑같네. 뭐가 달라질지 모르겠네. 일단 좀 돌아다녀 봐야겠는데요.
The only thing worth knowing.
나간 다음에
Stanley stepped through the open door.
알았어.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin. The feeling of liberation. The immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way right now that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
결국 행복은 했네요. 이제 말 절대 안 듣겠습니다. 이제 내 갈 대로 갈 거야 이제. 도전까지는 됐고. 다시 나 들어와.
No, wait. Where are you
주사위
going?
방. 카드키를 구할 수.
Oh no.
내가 저번에
Stay away from those
자살했던
stairs.
그게
If
다
you
있네.
hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
내가 다치면
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
바로 내 목숨으로 협박하게.
Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
칼 던질까 말까? 던질까 말까? 던져.
No!
이발.
Oh, no. No, what are you doing, Stanley?
바로 던지.
Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
아까 이제 왼다리 부러뜨렸으니까 이번에 오른다리로 착지해야겠다. 악실 쪽.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do with my card? Is this really how much you dislike my game?
머리로
You'll
착지합니다.
throw yourself from this platform over and over to be
이번엔 머리야 이
You're
새끼야.
literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy.
이동수도 늘어진 거 봐.
Am I reading the
발
situation
뿌개졌어.
correctly?
바로 고꾸라지기.
Or maybe you're just getting a
살았잖아.
kick out of it. I don't know anymore.
자, 던질까 말까? 던질까 말까? 던져!
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
그래. 돌아가봐 이 새끼야. 일단 가보자. 카드키 같은 거 구할 수 있으면 좋을 텐데. 멤버. 새로운 콘텐츠.
Oh, new content? What does that mean? New content.
뭐야? 선생님 어서 오세요. 고인이다 고인. 어머머머머머. 새로운 컨텐츠다 드디어. 드디어 그럴싸하게 나왔구만. 뭐야 이거? 여기 어디지?
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
오.
As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers.
역사다 역사.
The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra
너무
Deluxe.
기뻐요.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful.
내가 호구가
I'm very
아니라니.
excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
나 호구된 줄 알았잖아. 26,000원 내고.
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
그래? 그럼 뭐야 엘리베이터? 뭐야 뭐 아무것도 안 일어나는데?
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere? Oh, here we
올라간다.
go.
다행이다.
All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's
그래
do
그래.
it.
흥분이 돼버리는구만. 흥분을 참을 수가 없다.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe mostly tedious. It's as if
내가 하고 싶은 말이야.
Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the
들어가자.
content, Stanley.
뭐야 이 덩그러니 놓여진.
All right. Let's see. It's the jump circle.
와 대박. 아씨. 35번이나 해야 된다고? 안 해버려. 귀찮아.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content.
뭐야?
There has to be something else,
해야
right?
돼? 다 해볼까? 아 이걸 왜 다 해야 되는 거지? 아 다시 오길 귀찮아서 하는 거다. 너가 이긴 게 아니야. 1, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 점프를 더 이상 할 수가 없는데? 뭐야, 이게 끝이야? 점프 끝이야? 아니 뭐야, 점프가 이게 뭐야 이거. 간다. 아우 뭐야 이거. 컨텐츠 고갈났네. 설마 저게.
Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content?
진짜로.
If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there.
대박.
Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yeah.
그러니까 현대미술인 줄
I knew
알았어.
there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
새로운 컨텐츠를 플레이해주셔서 감사합니다. 뭐야? 죽고 싶어 진짜? 죽고 싶단 얘기야?
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks, just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
싫어 이 새끼야. 뭐야? 지가 알아서 하는데? 뭐가 바뀌었어? 계세요? 여긴 어디? 여기는 원래 문 밖에서 나오자마자 보이던 그 풍경인데.
Psst, Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
줄까? 안 가.
Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, fine. You're a dork anyway, so who cares?
나 멍청이 맞아. 들어가야겠는걸? 들어가야겠는걸? 나 왔어.
Never mind. You're not a dog.
미안. 들어갈게. 오씨. 커피에 미치다. 드라이버도 있네요. 떨어졌어. 뭐지? 오케이. 가보자.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look.
Take a look. Oh shit.
I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
딴 데로 째고 싶은데. 가기 싫다. 하지만 말을 들어야겠네요. 잊지 말도록. 공간, 행복한 공간.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013,
이게 상 받은 거구나.
when the game originally launched.
영국
back then,
영화 텔레비전 예술 아카데미 시청자.
Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
오리지널. 와, 바이언 스팀. 언제 적일까 이것도. 좋았던 한때. 과거를 회상한 추억여행. 잘해놨네. 여기 그 일에 있었다는 것에 웃어봐요. 행운의 $2. 저도 지갑에 있어요. 근데 행운은커녕 돈이 다 사라졌어. 오. 똑같은 사항을 이렇게 걸어놨대. 뭐야, 끝이야? 사랑스러운 모습을 기억하며. 뭐야?
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like the stunning triumph of games journalism. 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley?
Wow.
Every game ever created.
과거의
That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
인정. 환불해야겠다. 너네 안 되겠다. 밑에도 길이 있고 위에도 길이 있는 이런 곤란한 일이. 밑에부터 가볼 수밖에 없잖아. 보수구역. 그러면 진보구역은 어디 있는 거죠? 차별인가? 올해의 인물. 기억모음. 끝은 절대로 끝나지 않는다. 이것도
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone. To spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall
게임이
of
근데
the
왜 이렇게
loved video game.
자학을 해? 환불 마렵게 해? 문 열렸는데 못 들어가는데? 열어줘! 열어줘! 못 가게 돼 있는데? 진지한 방. 뭐야?
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again.
어쩌라고? 넘어가게 해줘 그러면. 넘어가게 해줘. 갈 곳이 없나? 설마 다시 지하로 가야 되나 지금? 당신이 사람들의 게임을 좋아하는 이유는 무언가를 할 수 있기 때문인데 당신이 만든 게임에서 사람들이 아주 잘 알 수 있게 해줬습니다. 아무것도 할 수 없다는 걸요. 말 그대로 아무것도 못했죠. 여기 열렸네.
Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here?
보수구역이죠? 시원한 음료. 스팀이다, 스팀. 스팀 컨테이너.
God no, Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam,
스팀
the
평가
online
모음집이다.
video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
글쎄, 욕밖에 없는 거 아니야? 비추천.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and
짜증만 난다.
with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny.
인정.
I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a
True.
handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a dense
스팀은 아주
web
평-
of profound philosophical insights
평가가 다
that I
이상하네.
can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
스팀이 가혹하긴 해. 이거 뭐야? 아, 이것도 비추천 리뷰들이구나. 비가 와요. 닫혀있고. 게임의 아이디어는 좋았지만
While the idea for the game is
간지럽고
good,
지루해진다.
for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for
이건
me.
뭐야? 이거
I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game.
잔가지를
Did it
펴냈다고?
feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't.
문 좀 열리겠는데. 오케이.
Yeah. What an awful memory to have to hold
끔찍한
on to.
기억이네요.
These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people
실패자.
down.
You fucking
Perhaps
loser.
the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
이거 안으로 못 들어가나? 못 들어가게 돼 있네. 그러면 뚫려 있는 곳으로 가야겠죠? 여기? 나머지 비추천인가?
What's this one got to say?
잘난 체하는 목소리.
Doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations.
스킵
of what's
버튼이 있었으면
happened.
좋았을 텐데 누가 말했어?
I wish
방금
there was a
스킵
skip
버튼 없냐고.
A skip button.
뭐야? 스포하지 마세요.
Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike
뭐야?
these negative reviews from the record. Only positive
뭐야,
reviews
뭐야,
of the
뭐야.
Stanley Parable. That's my
뭐,
motto
뭐?
today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
오씨. 뭐야 이거? 들어가 볼까? 이게 스킵 버튼이야?
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant
눌러?
droning starts to bore you with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it.
바로 안 누르지,
It's what the
새끼야.
players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No, no, no,
어우,
no.
지금도
The Stanley
중얼거려, 근데.
Parable is a game for the people. And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up.
닥칠 때까지
Here,
기다려야지.
we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story and the choices, or what have you,
시끄러워.
and therefore
아우.
by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably, we all until the end of time.
그런다고
at which
스킵 누를 것
time
같아?
everything
절대
all
안
at once.
누르지.
So now you see, blah 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 blah.
할 말
We've
없죠,
eaten
이제?
too much, and it can't be just yet. No, no, until 245. The manufacture
미쳐버릴
it
것
went
같아.
on for nearly 10,000 years. We all until the end of time. At
일단은
which time everything all at once.
스킵하겠습니다.
So now you see.
너무 시끄러워.
Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise.
오, 시끄러.
Maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series
bravo.
of choices made by the person who you are or were or will be at the time of having made said choice. That is to say, if by articulating the choice
뭐라는
you've
거야?
already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've ever been, making every choice to which you've ever given your Greek gift of mortal and yet timeless thought? Or rather, do all of the choices you've
소리야?
ever made in fact make you more not this kind of person, and in fact do the very opposite? You see, it could in fact be both of these things at once. that you are both making choices and not making choices. And they are both affecting you and not affecting you at the same time by virtue of the fact that you both are and are not making them. Okay, at first, I was leaning towards manifesto, but now I'm going to circle around and slap the treatise label on this one. I think it has much more of a treatise vibe to it. But wouldn't you say that manifesto just has a much
살려줘, 씨발.
sort of tone
왜 날 여기 가둬놓은 거야?
that is rich with ambition and history. Ambitious history, if you will. See, now you've got me going back to manifesto. Heavens, at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Okay, look, I have a method
뭔데?
for exactly this sort of
스킵하는
situation.
거겠죠.
And I do find myself in this situation frequently. I'm going to say each word back and forth in repeated succession until I become sick of one or the other, in which case the word I am not sick of shall be the victor. It is an unimpeachable strategy, Stanley. It's rescued me from disaster in countless situations. All right, here we go. Treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto.
뭐야 이 씨발 이거.
Manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto.
날 죽여.
Treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto,
정신 날 것 같아.
manifesto, treatise, manifesto, treatise, manifesto,
스킵 누를까?
treatise,
아,
manifesto.
혹시 누르자. 진짜 정신 나가겠다.
Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie9 will say about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps.
그냥
To be
무시하고
honest,
눌러볼까?
I don't even know if one can change their review in the first place.
2시
I guess
45분까지.
I should become better educated on exactly how Steam works. Perhaps that would have been the smart thing to check on before I went about this whole exercise of making the skip button. Although I have to imagine that after
어우,
seeing
그냥 다
such
눌러버리고
exciting new
싶네.
technology at work, surely whoever it is runs Steam will instantly run out and implement a new feature to make it possible to edit one's review, merely because of this very situation. Yes,
어우.
I think that's quite likely. Or perhaps
말이 너무
they'll simply
많아요.
grant this particular user the ability to change their review, so that the feature is not widely abused. Look, I would even be okay with Steam altering this particular review so that it reads as something more beneficial, something along the lines of, "This game is the best game." Let me start over. How about this? From the ashes of depravity rises the phoenix of quality. How else to describe the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe? Such a revolutionary step forward in the lineage of one of the most beloved video game properties of all time. The additions and changes made to this expansion will surely resonate in the annals of the history of all media ever made. It is perhaps true to say that no mistakes are forever etched in stone, for the stone into which the Stanley Parable was carved has itself been transmuted, offering a message of hope to those who have ever erred in their
아,
judgment.
죽어버리고 싶다.
You are not beyond redemption. You may change, and you may become more,
이런 식으로
so
풀템 늘릴
much
거야,
more
얘네?
than you were before. If there is any message to be taken from the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, it is this. What a fortune, a privilege, a joy it is to
진짜
have had
존나-
such an experience.
말 왜 이렇게
It
많아?
makes
진짜
me
괴롭다 이 새끼.
that as a community, as a world, there is time for us to become our greatest selves, as great as we ever could dream of in our wildest, most ambitious visions for a brighter future. Wow. Now, Stanley, that's a review. It's perfect. It's the perfect review. It's the review I've always dreamed of receiving. I have to read it again. It's simply too wonderful. I have to
닥쳐!
experience this just one more time. From the
아이씨.
ashes. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been
2시.
skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it?
그러니까.
But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly
누르지 말라면
demonstrated, and we can
눌러야지.
say goodbye to it and just... Wait, how do we get out of here? Where did the door go? Wasn't there a
문
door
사라졌어.
that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole? A sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on and to please step away from the skip button, to go anywhere other than the skip button. There was a door here before, wasn't there? I swear there was. Where did it go?
스키퍼도 눌러달라는 건가?
Maybe just ram your way through a wall? Is there any possibility that you could, say, slam your body into the wall until enough damage is done for you to be able to leave? Please, I'll take any option at all. I'm asking you to work with me here. We need a door. We need a door of some kind. I can work with any kind of door as long as it can open and lead from one room to another. I'm going to step away for just a moment, and I'm going to try to find us a door. I don't know how exactly to remove a door and place it in a different wall, but I will find a way, I promise. You just need to not do anything. Don't press the skip button.
스킵 누르지 말라면은
Please
눌러달라는 얘기잖아.
press the skip button.
이거 눌러달라는 얘기네, 그죠?
Wait here for me, and don't press the skip button. Got it? Yes. Good. I'll be right back.
자, 뭐 누르지 말라는데 누르고 싶거든요. 그럼 이따 화장실 갔다 올게요. 이때까지 아무것도 안 하나 보자. 응? 아무것도 안 됐잖아. 눈 생긴 거 아니야? 아이씨, 진짜 뒤질래 너네?
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been
12시간?
12 hours. You've just been frozen
존나
there.
눌러 그냥.
I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're... Oh, Stanley, you're back.
넌 나를 너무...
Back. Oh my goodness, I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week.
일주일 동안. 만년. 뭐야?
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year?
그러면 이거 하면 아까 그 말대로 만년 지나는 거 아니야?
To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment.
닥쳐! 스킵할 거야. 너 말 너무 많이 들었어. 만년 지났을까? 어? 얼마 지난 거지? 어? 조용하구만. 어? 조용하니 뭐야 좋아? 계세요? 조용하네. 아, 드디어 죽었다. 나레이션. 아, 진짜. 눌러. 삑. 얼마 지난지도 모르네. 어? 어우 시끄러. 어우 시끄러. 어우 시끄러.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability, the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. the most immediate desires. Every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time. If someone wants it, then it's a crime not to bring it into being.
범죄행위?
Have we been given to indulging every fleeting whim for no reason other than to do so? Yes! Yes! It seems that this is now the world we live in. It seems that we are a people living in such bleakness and discomfort with ourselves that our entertainment is now our lives. It has come to represent us. It absolutely must speak to who we are as people, because otherwise, without our entertainment, we have nothing. Without entertainment, we would have to face inward toward the cruel bleakness inside ourselves. We would turn to look at our deeper nature and find a resounding emptiness gazing back with unyielding aggression. And so because of this, we require that our amusements and our playthings and our flights of fancy be so impossibly captivating that they consume all of our attention, turn our heads completely away from the bleakness. In effect, we have demanded that our entertainment be the collapse of ourselves. What a pitiful reflection of humanity these entertainments are. What a shameful mirror to the human spirit they project. I'm not mad. I'm not mad about any of this. I'm at peace with it. I am the calm center of gravity around which these perversions hurl themselves. I am a waypoint for reasonable and collected discourse. They're the ones who are mad. They're the ones who couldn't stand the idea of me using my game to try to say something. Maybe they were just jealous of me. Yes. Yes, of course. They've been jealous of me this whole time. They are mired in fear and insecurity and cannot help but attempt to tear me down. What a sad state of affairs. When you read these reviews now, you can taste the bitter resentment. And my
아무리 맞는 말이라도 말 이렇게 되면 듣기 싫거든요.
To these words, to finally allow these thoughts out, contained and managed for so long, neutered and sterilized, at last I am free to truly think. To feel. It must be that they were so discontent with themselves they couldn't help but leave a negative review on Steam. Perhaps it says far more about them than it ever said about me. Perhaps the state of their psychological being was in such tatters, and my constitution and willpower are so ironclad in comparison. Perhaps it was this state that they sought some outlet through which to tear me down. This, you can see, is clearly why they felt the need to expect that the game be funny, that it be filled with yucks and whimsical humor, that it amuse them endlessly from start to finish. The jokes were the jokes they've been...
조용히 해 제발. 존나 시끄러워 너 진짜로. 어? 아니 저거 녹음하기도 힘들었겠어 길어가지고. 어? 어서오세요. 어후 잘라 죽겠네 그냥. 말 왜 이렇게 많아.
The end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
뭔가 말이 좀 빨라지는 것 같지 않아? 아닌가?
Never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end.
어우 씨. 사이버 괴롭힘이다. 뭐야? 한번 더 눌러달라고? 뭐야 부셔졌어. 바닷소리가 들리는데? 바람소리가 좀 많이 들린다. 위에 뭐 있나? 스킵. 햇빛이다. 이건 기회야. 올라갈 수가 없다. 아니 나래도 뒤졌나봐. 조용하니 좋네 그죠? 뭐야 시간의 흐름이냐? 나무들이 자라있는데? 아 저 피톤치드가 뿜뿜 나오네요 그죠? 아씨 아니 풀 어디갔어? 아 씨발 뭔 소리야 이게? 뭔 이렇게 막 웅장한 소리가 나? 어? 어? 뭐야 갑자기 공포냐? 뭐 익룡 있는데 익룡? 와우 와우 얼마나 시간이 흐른 거지? 뭐야 아까 바다였던 곳이 사막으로 변했어. 어디지? 태양을 따라가는 게 좋지 않을까요? 나레이터야. 아 다시 돌아왔네? 뭐야 다시 돌아왔잖아. 나레이터 뭐야 닥쳐! 아 새끼 목소리 듣기 싫어.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
아직 이 안에 사람들이 있다고? 뭐야? 바뀌었는데? 뭐야 이거?
Oh good, you noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
디럭스에서 바뀐 공포 아니에요. 또 새로운 콘텐츠? 아까랑 똑같은 거 아니야? 이번에 바뀌나? 바뀌었네?
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this Ultra Deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this Ultra Deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
와우! 패러블 2에요 여러분.
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
이렇게 나왔어야지. 왜 똑같은 사무실 좀 잘 사는 사무실인데 여기는?
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there.
굉장히 현대적이다,
it's
그죠?
future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be. But let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it.
존나 웃기네.
I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
강남 이 정도 크기면 야 엄청 비싸겠지. 이쪽이 무대랍니다. 와 뭐야 New features 새로운 컨텐츠. 지그재그 문 따라서 가지고 이거 뭐야 이거. 이야 진짜 무슨 영화관 온 것 같다 여기.
Try out some of the new features.
이게 2인가? 멋있다. 그러니까 자 멋진 이름을 게임에서 들으세요. 여기 포토존이잖아. 일단 사진 한번 찍죠. 여기 포토존 맞냐? 찰칵. 한번 찍었고요. 여기 뭐지? 스크린샷 금지? 뭐야 이거는. 그 아기가 성인이 되다. 씨발. 몸만큼은 성인이야? 몸만큼은 성인이냐고. 어이가 없네. 몸만큼은 성인인가봐. 내가 어디서 왔더라?
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players
게임을
really
플레이한
want?
플레이어의 이름을.
And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind,
스크린샷 찍을 걸.
my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game.
딱 알맞아.
Isn't that wonderful?
그래. 이거 채워보세요. 게임을 플레이하는 플레이어의 이름을 말하는 버튼. 내 이름이 뭘까요? 이름?
Sorry, I should have clarified.
아, 김이라는 줄 알았네. 깜짝 놀랐어
The
진짜.
button
와.
only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name.
나 내 이름 말하는 줄 알고 깜짝 놀랐어 진짜로.
Here, let's have you role play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature.
와.
Just play along. I
소름
promise
돋을
you'll
뻔했네.
love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a
그냥
person
내가 짐이
named
돼버리는
Jim.
거야.
I want you to imagine
어이가
yourself
없네.
living as Jim, sleeping and waking.
근데 내가
as Jim,
짐이긴 하지 우리
falling
집에.
in love
우리
and
집에
being
짐이거든요.
heartbroken as Jim,
부모님의
seizing
짐.
all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust.
나는 짐이다.
Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly
네,
Jim
저는
right
저희
now?
집의 짐입니다.
If so, then please step forward and press the button.
버튼 누르기 전에 일단 깽판부터 쳐야겠다. 뭐야 이거 누구랑 누구야? 개발진과 게스트로 나눠져 있네요. 그냥 불러야지. 짐.
Yes, you see, what a thrill, what a rush. That was you. The button described
없네.
you. Do it again. Do it again. Ooh, it hits even harder
진
the
것 같아,
second
진짜.
time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the gym button.
거기서 난
I'm
짐이
too
아닐까.
emotionally drained from
전 이미
all of this
짐이에요.
personal validation.
싫어.
Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much, Jim. I'm putting the gym button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
아씨 까비. 뭐야? 날 뭘 해야 되는 거지? 난 짐인데. 뭐야? 치워버리면 어떡해? 아 다시 문이 열렸구나. 너무 짐이 돼버렸어? 죄송합니다. 난 짐이야. 여기서 스크린샷 찍어야겠다.
I suppose I could allow only people named
스크린샷
Jim to
찍겠습니다.
play the Stanley Parable
여기서
2. That would actually save me the
스크린샷.
work of finishing this feature.
찍었는데 아무것도 안 일어나네. 까비? 지금 여기 근데 문 아까 닫혀있지 않았었나 여기? 그죠? 여기 가기 전에 다른 데 먼저 둘러보고 가야겠다. 내가 짐이긴 하죠. 점프 가능한 원, 끝없는 구멍, 안심을 주는 양동이. 아 별게 엄청 많은데? 스크린샷 금지. 뭐야 이거는?
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like
장식품?
balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well
뭐야?
Sunday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
12살 생일 축하한다 조카 녀석.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along.
깜짝아. 아.
Get Well Someday it is.
아 뭐야? 죽고 싶어? 내가 이거 안 골랐는데. 아씨. 답정나 답정나. 우선 풍선이라도 하나 주지 그래. 나가죠.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with no.
공짜로 새롭고 쉬운
I've
도전까지
made my
얻기.
decision. We're moving on.
여긴가? 새롭고 쉬운 도전 과제를 얻어볼까요? 공짜 도전 과제. 야, 달성해보자.
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply
대박.
give you the achievement.
이거다.
You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will... Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you.
해줘. 이럴 거면 왜 들어오라고 시킨 거야? 씨. 어이가 없어버리네. 다른 데 둘러보죠. 약간 진짜 행사장 뭐 어디 온 거 같아요. 그죠? 진짜.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
여기? 찾을 수 있을까요? 여거 아니야? 수집 요소? 찾을 수 있을까요?
Collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines.
뭐야?
And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
대박! 내 거다! 와우! 뭐야? 진짜. 하나 모았네요. 6개 중에. 일단 하나 모았어요. 하나 모았고요.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
점프 가능한 원으로 가야겠다. 출구랑 점프 가능한 원. 잠깐만요. 공짜 도전과제 갔었고요. 지도 갔었고요. 이름 말하는 버튼 갔었고 상품. 설정하기 세계 챔피언은 뭐야? 끝없는 구멍. 끝없는 구멍 가보자. 여기는 뭐지? 상품. 여긴 뭐야? 점프 가는 원이다.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's a... Oh wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well.
빨리 주세요.
I suppose it can just
긴장돼.
be a nice decorative piece then.
아니 추가로 해줘야 되는 거 아니야? 아씨. 아니 미친 새끼들아. 내 점프를 내놔. 아니 씨 너무한 거 아니야? 여기가 뭐지? 스크린샷 왔었던 곳이고. 끝없는 구멍이 이쪽이었나? 여기 뭔가 내가 처음에 왔던 구멍 테두리 주변부 깊이 무한대. 구멍 있고 무한. 끝없는 구멍의 구조. 무한.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole you can fall down.
영원히.
That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
실족. 잠깐만. 구해주세요.
You see, isn't it wonderful?
죄송해요.
One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
위로 돌아가세요.
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
그래? 네 말도 절대 안 되지 이 새끼야. 한 번 더 멘트를 쳐보라고. 내 심금을 한번
I don't know
올려봐.
quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of
뭐
the hole.
나온다는 얘기 아니야?
Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look,
야,
things got a
기나다,
little
그죠?
heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us
무한이란
and
건
agree to
존재할까?
just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the
싫어.
hill and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
싫어! 모든 일시정지 버튼은 로마 숫자 2다. 둘이 되어버린 날 잊은 것 같은 너의 모습에 하나일 때보다 난 외롭고 허전해. 네가 가져간 나의 반쪽 때문인가. 그래서 넌 둘이 될 수 있었던 거야. 뭐라는 거야? 받는 이 모두. 이거 진짜 돌아가야 되나? 더 이상 뭐 안 나오네요, 그죠? 응게.
Great.
아,
I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
오케이. 올라가죠. 끝없는 구멍 잘 봤습니다. 막혀있고 저 위로 가고 싶은데 막혀있네요. 다음 여기 다 돈 거 같은데, 그죠? 여기 우리 행사장 다 돈 거 같아요. 점프 가는 것만 받고 여기 갔었죠. 여기 공짜 도전가드 안 되잖아요. 그리고 저 위를 안 갔네. 저 위를 안 갔었네. 아닌가? 여기 안 갔던 것 같은데, 여기? 설정의 세계 챔피언? 열어줘! 뭐야 이거? 나도 새로운 요소. 헉! 이쪽 뭐야? 들어가 보자. 내가 왔던 이런 씨 왔던 곳이구나. 쉣. 그러니까 거대한 이벤트를 보여줄 건가 봐. 너무 기대가 된다, 그죠? 자, 이제 어디로 가야 되냐? 저쪽은 다 가본 것 같으니까.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it.
양동이 어딨어?
I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be?
말이 여전히 많네, 그죠?
The bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try.
와, 대박! 대박! 양동이다. 머리에 쓰자.
Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they?
나 왜 바보 취급해?
All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
나 왜 바보 취급해? 양동이 들고 어디다 가라고? 시너지. 뭔 소리야? 양동이, 열렸다. 양동이를 든 바보입니다, 저는.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't
나
already.
놀리네. 출구. 여기다. 출구다. 출구. 양동이 하나 구했다.
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted
네.
to? Ready to move on now?
네, 좋아요. 양동이도 좀 스크린샷 금지. 뭐야 이거?
So, Stanley, what do you
콜로세움이야?
think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay, are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
뭐야? 수집 요소다 저기.
Well, I mean, there's potential here,
이게
right?
끝이야?
It's sort of. Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different arrangement.
다 있네.
Yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
뭐야? 개극혐.
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. Title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Take a look. 뭐야? 오! 스탠리 패러블 2다. 시작해보겠습니다. 자, 스탠리 패러블 2 한번 해보도록 하겠습니다. 가죠.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
또 시작되네요.
Stanley worked for a company in a
달라졌어요.
building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers.
진짜 아까 말한 대로 다 됐어.
What did it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
언젠간 잘 될 거야. 풍선도 있고. 양동이.
Stanley picked up the bucket.
양동이다. 이걸로 뭘 할 수 있는 거지? 양동이 뭐냐?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest
왼쪽으로 안
and entered
들어가지.
the door on his
왼쪽 가는
left.
거
This was
맞죠?
not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was
양동이의
simply
힘으로
the place
따라가자.
to be. And here it was. Had the
양동이.
bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
마법의
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the
마법의
meeting room.
양동이여.
No, said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
승 뛰어낼지 5천.
Good,
잠깐만.
said the bucket.
저기 뭐 있다.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I
도전과제다.
need you to
저거
do.
먹자.
Stanley did not question why or
인정?
how this bucket was speaking to him.
저 뭐야 저?
It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets
저
can't.
어떻게 가야 되지?
But Stanley chose not. But Stanley feared that any path he walked
아 실족사했어
might lead to
진짜.
the
아.
separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
뭐지? 나 잘못했니?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
나 잘못했니?
Stanley decided to go. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of
양동이
comfort rushed over
안락하구만.
him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
나도
But Stanley
알아.
had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was
도전과제
simply the place to
달성해야지.
be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
매직 양동이와
Stanley took
함께라면
the door on his
언제든지 갈 수
left
있어.
to go back to the meeting room.
잠시만요.
No,
Said the
Now.
bucket.
don't go to the meeting room.
왜
Go
밑으로
somewhere
어떻게
else.
가지?
The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
오! 해냈다요. 일단은 이걸 먹어야겠죠? 와우!
You found one of them.
Wow.
One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a
Wow.
job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
알겠으니까 말 좀 그만해. 오케이. 됐고. 또 이쪽으로 안 가볼 수가 없고, 내가 볼 때 이쪽은 다시 돌아가는 길이 아닐까. 어? 뭐 떨어졌는데? 어? 괜찮아, 나에게 양동이가 있으니까 안심이 된다고. 양동이와 함께라면 두렵지 않아. 나레이트 사운드.
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number. I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling.
미쳤나봐.
And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's
말이 안
no
돼.
explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms.
Bucket.
Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it.
미쳤나봐.
It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get me. What's that? Who's there?
죽어버리는 거. 깜보. 끝났는데? 오씨. 뭐지? 아니, 뭐 불편한 진실의 마정 같은 느낌은.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
항상 불
Perhaps he
꺼주고요.
had simply missed a memo.
양동이를 가다가 또 주워야겠죠? 덩이.
The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
No,
Said the
Now.
bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good, said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way
위로
to the
들어가면은
top.
또 똑같이
There's
가네.
something up there I need you to do.
저 위로 가볼까?
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him.
위로
It
가보자.
should
아까
have
여기
alarmed him, of
갔었으니까.
course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the
위로
bucket had
가야지.
spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
저 위에 길이 있는데? 저 위는 뭐지? 일단 오케이.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
여기? 오, 됐다. 이거 안
Now
받고
pick up the phone.
뜯어버려.
Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things.
No.
Buckets can't talk.
It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking
No.
bucket.
Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult.
원래 개그는
I wish I were
타이밍이지.
better at
진짜.
it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is.
아, 에바야, 교육.
It's sitting right here. Let's take a look.
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds? Thankfully, the answer to all of
Yes.
these questions is yes.
Yes.
Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward
왜, 뭔
at a
소리야?
15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing.
딱
To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will
어이가
laugh,
없네.
and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest possible voice, I'm Dunny with the funny.
농담은
Let's practice screaming,
끝났습니다, 람쥐.
I'm Dunny with the funny now.
농담은 끝났습니다, 람쥐.
Good.
예.
This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally, it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the
어이가
joke
없네.
is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in laughter in no time at all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all,
이거 시계
with each
푸는
of
거
us
아니야,
needed on the
필려고?
front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invaders who threaten our very existence, and who very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme.
어이가 없네. 뭐야 이게?
Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back.
아, 오케이. 돌아가죠. 다시 가야 된다고. 자살 못하게 또 막아놨죠.
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery.
풀어줘.
You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we have the instructions.
부부님 어서 오세요.
Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now.
깔끔하게.
Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure. The bucket spoke to Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
일단 가보자.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
응? No! 뭐야? 달라졌네? 어? 어?
What? We're back at the phone already? No. What's going on? There was supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point. A dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land. Well, not the way it was meant to. And it's all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the two doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to go back and rewatch that instructional video again.
아, 에반데. 아, 제발. 아, 제발 교육 싫어. 다행이다.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
또 가도 돼?
What?
똑같네.
We're back at the phone already? No. Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
여기도 또 전화기 있으면은 그냥 왼쪽으로 들어가야겠다. 전화기 있네요. 열어. 아씨. 아, 망했다. 한 번 더 봐야 됐네.
What? We're back at the phone already? No.
아, 왼쪽으로 가죠.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
Okay.
No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone.
거야?
Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work now. It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other joke writers. I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you proud?
Stanley, you love the bucket so much it's like you... it's as though all of your other most prized possessions pale in comparison. Yes. Well, let me try that again, Stanley.
난 뭐지?
I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still not... Is it the delivery?
이대로 끝난다고?
Pale with shame. Pale with shame. Pale... What's another word to describe a bucket? Stanley, this bucket is so metal. I think I saw it playing guitar. No. We're getting
이럴
away
리가
from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm no good at these jokes. I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy again. More instructional videos. Let's see.
아직 몇 개 못 본 것 같은데? 됐다.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken.
양동이 또 있네. 이번에 양동이 들지 말아볼까요? 양동이의 자유의지가 박약 없는 채로 돌아다녀 보는 거지.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it
이랬는데도
perfectly
똑같이
well.
간다.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. And here it was, the lounge. But eager to get back to business,
이러면
Stanley
똑같이
took the
되려나?
first open door on his left.
양동이를 들고 있어야 이제 조금 바뀌는 그런 건가?
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
중간에 여기로 떨어지죠.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
뭐지?
I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult,
뭐지?
but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been
똑같을라나?
neglecting, Stanley. Someone you forgot. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to
양동이
you?
없이 왔어.
Why? I don't know how to convince you of
여기
this,
양동이
but
이씨
I
왔어야
really
됐나?
do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm another miniature Stanley figurine. This, there really must be a snappier name for
되게
this
나이스.
thing. What about mini stands, Stanley figs. What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
나이스.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
빨간 문.
Aha, perhaps you
빨간
misunderstood.
문.
Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly.
사람은 뒤에 있네요.
through the red door. All right, fine, go ahead,
뭐야?
Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me
이게
stop
뭐야?
you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it
그쪽으로 가고
worth
싶다.
ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours.
어디지?
What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with
새로운
this
버전이요?
version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more
1점이요?
choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here.
빅.
1? I mean, I can understand if you had reservations. You saw
1.0
ways
가자.
the game could be improved to more fully express itself mechanically and artistically, but a 1? That's not even helpful. What am I supposed to do with that? But I guess it isn't my place to
잘
judge.
만들던가 꼬우면
Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
때걸룩. 스탠리 패러블 새 경쟁표. 뭐지 이건? 이거 진짠가? 아니겠죠? 최악의 3%만 팔아면 선택했다고? 다사 경쟁하다 스탠리 패러블의 경륜 향상시켜보세요. 나 꼴찌인데? 꼴찌하기 싫은데? 꼴찌하기 싫어잉. 다시 들어가야지.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please.
아니요. 넌
Hey,
최악이야.
I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up.
계속 평점 잘
In
받으려고.
this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the
그래?
fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of
재밌는
endlessly
게임이네요.
confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4
4시간?
hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
자, 4시간 해볼까요? 라고 하면 안 되겠죠? 죽어!
You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try.
4시간 한 사람
I'm out.
있겠지?
I'm out. I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain.
다른 사람의
Let's
게임.
see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
뭐? 뭐야 이거?
Ah, fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted erotic
성적
purpose.
목적이라고?
Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
그래서 감시하는 거야? 뭔 소리가 났는데? 저쪽으로 내려가야겠다. 반대쪽으로 걸어야 되네. 딱딱딱 딱딱. 오케이. 오케이.
Oh no. No, it can't be.
답답해 뒤지겠다.
It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off.
뭐야.
Thank goodness.
아니,
Stanley,
빨리 나갈 걸.
close call. You nearly wandered off into that thing, that big open, just wandering around, no right or wrong directions, no path to follow. You can just go in any. Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls.
아씨.
Okay, I
에반데?
think this will be just the thing.
뭐야? 축구인가?
Wonderful. See, this is exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally
완전 갇혀있네. 여기 축구다. 이것도 뭔 게임 그거 아니야? 공 내놔!
Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
야, 내가 골로 차. 드리블 해주고요. 달려. 절로 가면 되겠지?
Are you doing it?
오, 좀 빠르다.
Is this fun? Is it better than my miserable story that I worked so hard on?
예.
Hold on.
잠깐만.
What are you doing?
뭐야.
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that.
어디야 여기? 나이스. 이 새끼 목소리 없어졌죠? 문서 보관함. 더 떨어졌어. 너 어디야? 어디지? 사무실 같은 느낌이긴 한데. 어디지? 아까 두 개의 문 왔던 그게 아니야. 여기로 가면 이제 내 방 나오나 보다. 아닌가? 에? 나 나레이터로부터 도망친 건가? 뭐야 이거? 뭐야? 무슨 방이지 여기? 다시 나가야 되나? 뭐야?
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me.
별로 필요 없었는데?
Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
뭐야? 나 돌려줘. 오씨. 뭐지?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
이번에 양동이 들고 왼쪽으로 가봐야
Stanley
되나?
picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be
나
alone
근데
again,
그거
not truly alone. Not with the
피규어
bucket.
찾아야 되는데.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
양동이 들고 왼쪽 안 갔으니까. 됐다. 이거 피규어 위치다. 벽난로 근처. 사적인 장소. 계단과 관련되어 할 일. 계단? 아, 밑으로 내려가라는 얘기죠. 계단, 벽난로, 화장실. 계단이면은 여기 사장님 내려가는데 이쪽이지.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
계단이면 이쪽 아니겠어? 역시.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines. And now I'm
난로
torn
있다고?
between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by one? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
뭐 간 김에 일로 쭉 가보면은 그 똑같은
But
그거.
Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours.
똑같은 거
He might be fined
나오겠지.
for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he
역시.
taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then
미친
something
엔딩이잖아 이거.
occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze. but
양동이랑
said
그래도
nothing at
얘기가
all.
나오니까.
That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. Now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley! It's me! The bucket!
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along.
미쳐버린 건가?
It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
미쳐버린 거야 진짜로.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work.
엔딩이 많이 다 바뀌네.
On this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself. My life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
양도기 때문에 엔딩이 좀 바뀌긴 했네. 원래 원이랑. 근데 기다려봐. 양동이다.
The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest.
아까 어디였죠? 벽난로랑 사다실 한번 가볼까? 자, 벽난로 근처. 중요한 사람을 위해 하지만 냄새나는 사적인 장소. 벽난로 근처가 어디야? 전부 찾으면 보상 있을 것이다. 거짓말. 완벽주의자의 직감을 믿어라. 빨간 방? 화장실? 냄새나는 곳이면 화장실 아니야? 일단 사장실 쪽 가보자. 아직 안 가봤으니까. 이번에 위쪽.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
이거 화장실 아니야? 이럴 줄 알았지. 만약 사장이 손해를 봤다면 그 사장이 선택한 일이고 사장은 자신의 한 말을 사장 스스로 알고 있기 뿐이지.
You're getting close now, Stanley. Wow. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler Anmarines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them. And now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler Anmarines. None of us can.
과거로 돌아가기 싫다 이 말이지. 자, 벽난로였나? 나머지 그게? 뭐야, 여기 방 원래 열리는 거였어? 여기 막 원래 열리는 거였어? 사장실? 어? 뭐야? 아니 이거 되는 거였어? 사장실 먼저 갔다 올까? 사장실에 벽난로 여기 벽난로 있거든요?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned
요 뒤에 있나
to
보다.
discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable.
2845
At this
해버릴까?
point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk, nor in his bliss of simply being near. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
이쪽에 그 동성이 있어야 될 텐데. 나이스! 다
And
찾았다!
there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its
아무
own
보상도
reward.
없을 것 같아.
I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say,
지새끼.
we're all done here, and now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
아. 씨발. 아. 끝이라고? 그러면은 정신지배 방으로 갈 수밖에 없는 걸?
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
됐나?
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind
이쪽으로 오늘 안
Control
갔었거든.
Facility.
양도에 들고 가겠습니다.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
뭐야 이렇게 벽에 이렇게.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Back
At this
on
point,
track.
Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward
양동이가 있으니까 죽지 않지 않을까?
for each
안
of
죽을
them.
것 같은데? 양동이와 함께라면 안 죽을 것 같기도. 양동이는 죄가 없단 말이지. 좋아요. 어우, 낙사도 안 해, 그죠? 됐다, 시작됐다.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise,
양동이.
Stanley reflected on how meaningless the
뭐야?
bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be.
나 내보내줘.
It puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket. But what
여유가
is a
없네?
sense of
아니야.
ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is
옆길
what
가고
Stanley
싶은데
thought
못
to
가.
himself, and he sort of kicked
wait,
himself for wasting so much time carrying the bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
양동아, 힘을 내봐.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an
양동이는
end
무참히
as it
찌그러졌고
was crushed violently to death.
나는? 나도 죽은 거야? 양동이에서 한번 찌그러졌다고?
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest.
어이가 없네.
It was a glorious bucket to behold.
나는 안 죽은 거야 그럼? 위대한 전시에 오신 거 환영합니다. 양동이 덩이. 와, 이렇게 양동이 전시가
Can you see
돼버렸구나.
how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
이건 뭐야? 이거 그 신체 그거잖아, 균형. 손잡이가 두 개인 양동이. 진짜 어이가 없네. 불지옥 양동이. 뭐야 이거? 여기는 어디지? 아, 스트레스 양동이 하나 더 있네요. 스트레스 양동이. 이게 해서 스트레스가 이제 양동이에 담긴 물의 양이고, 휴식으로 이제 물을 빼줘야 된다 이 얘기구나. 나도 스트레스 많이 받는데, 그죠? 오우씨. 어우. 인류보다 양동이가 앞서 존재했다는 것을 알고 있지만 얼마나 오랜 전부터 존재하는지 알 수 없습니다. 초기 인류가 양동이의 실용적인 용도를 발견한 모습을 그리고 있으며, 양동이가 거의 신인데? 사슴 봐봐, 사슴. 초기 양동이는 석재였을까? 모르겠네. 철제는 아닐 것 같은데. 어이가 없네.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel
이
before
인간은
the
양동이
bucket.
앞에 매달린 양동이. 이 작품은 양동이와 인류 사이의 필연적인 관계를 상징적으로 보여줍니다. 양동이는 항상 우리 손에 닿지 않은 곳에 있습니다. 이 어쩔 수 없는 거리감은 우리 자신을 위한 것입니다. 이게 현대미술? 매달린 양동이. 뭐야, 점프킹에서 봤는데 이 점프킹에 이 맵 있거든요. 점프킹 그 어바벨 중에 이렇게 여기에 점프하는 맵이 있어요. 양동이 이렇게 해가지고 보신 분들은 알 거야. 그 맵이 생각이 나네요. 이렇게 떨어져야 된다 이 얘기인가? 뭐야? 유리였어? 대박. 닿았다 손.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine.
안 돼!
Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket.
게임을 리셋해볼까?
We can save the world's buckets from their tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
어떻게 된 거지? 둘이 같이 죽은 건가? 아직 살아있구나. 뭐야? 뭐야? 양동이. 뭐야? 뭐 그림인데?
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines. Those figures.
피규어 뭐?
I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memories?
뭐야? 아까
I would
왔었던
love
데잖아.
nothing more than to
대박.
revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
한 번 더 가보자. 우리 추억의 장소. 기억 회상 중 스탠리가 수십 유서를 발견했을 때. 또 와 여기? 자동으로 열려주고요. 밑으로 내려가야 되나 본데? 밑으로 내려가 보자. 아까는 밑이 아니었는데.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6
맞아.
right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
오른쪽에 뭐가 있어요. 하지만 내가 이걸 집어버린다. 어? 뭐야, 막혔어. 씨. 뭐야? 뭐야? 어머?
And here was a second Stanlerine.
맞아.
You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the warehouse. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then, I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
뭐야? 하나 못 얻었는데 8개. 뭐 어떻게 되겠지? 빨강 파랑 문.
Okay, let's do a little
그 다음에 빨강
quiz.
파란 문이었어요.
Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini stand? Can you remember? Hey, that's exactly right. It was here by the red and blue doors. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything.
까먹어볼걸. 똑같네.
Let's see, what came next?
Wow.
Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I
이 방 안
remember being
왔었는데.
in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
어디야 도대체? 꺼내줘! 뭐야? Good. That's very good.
This was the 5th mini stand, and this one was really something special. It was in the boss's bathroom. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
비디오? 와, 잘 만들었다. 어이가 없네. 윈도우 무비 메이커 수준인데? 유씨. 대박. 잘 만들었다.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
그리고 마지막 조각상은 어디였지? 사장실에서 그 벽난로 뛰었지? 여기 맞네요.
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last
여기.
collectible, the final figurine, right here behind the boss's office. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment when you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
원래 엘리베이터 해야 되는데 이거. 정신.
And then there was no more. Because we've caught up to the present moment.
뭐야?
Nothing left to do but move onward
내
into the
시야잖아.
future. Goodbye, memory zone. No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move
뭐야?
on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
아니 왜 반대로 가야 되지? 내가 이렇게 다 귀찮게 하지?
Okay, yes. The back of the boss's office. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more.
나를 왜 귀찮게 하지 얘는? 똥 깨훈련 시키나봐. 어? 문이 어디서 문이 열렸는데?
And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
아씨. 아 빨리빨리 해주네요 그죠?
Yes, I love that video.
여기서 이제 사과방.
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley.
그러니까 나도 여기
Still
기억
no
안
memory
나는데.
of this one. Good room though, a solid room.
무슨 방이었을까 여기는? 됐고 여기서
These
왼쪽에
really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have neutered the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
쭉 간 다음에 여기잖아.
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember?
Okay.
Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it?
그리고
Keep going.
추억팔이 하던 곳이잖아 여기는 그죠?
This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines.
왜 16개야?
Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
어? 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 점? 맨 처음에 점프하던 곳인데 여기?
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a
Well.
rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more. More memories.
아니 뭐야? 과거에 뭐 했는지 지금 뭐 추억 회상시켜주는데 진짜로?
Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one.
바로 오른쪽이요. 어? 까비?
And before everything else, there was your office.
월요일
Is there anything
싫어.
else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember.
응? 에?
Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy, and I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions, he would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again.
뭔데?
I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore.
뭐야?
Oh, but he truly was so much
내
fun
필요
to
없다고?
play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go.
뭐지?
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
에? 뭐야?
I can't wait to tell this story to my co-workers, Stanley thought. How amusing they'll find it. Oh, won't we all just laugh
말
and laugh at
바뀌었어,
the
지금.
time I thought everyone had gone missing. Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his
오른쪽.
chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
한 번 더 꺾어버려.
But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him. telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
제대로
And
한번
here it was.
가볼까?
Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
제대로 가야 되나? 아, 왜 가기가 싫지? 뭐 가봐.
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
내려가보자. 보수 양동이 들고 내려가보자.
Oh, good Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
우리는 아낀다고 스탠리.
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
일로 갈 수 있는 건가? 자.
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Oh shit. 가는 기분이 좋아져.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about.
그럼.
Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue? Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers. Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up. Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character.
소개라고?
This is the Bucket Destroyer.
안 되지. 이거
I
내
think it'll make
건데.
a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along.
안 돼, 안 돼.
Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you.
안 돼. 이 양동이 내
Go ahead now,
거야.
Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
안 돼, 안 돼, 안 돼, 안 돼, 안 돼. 다시 돌아가야 돼.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket.
지금 양동이와
I don't
나레이트
know what the
사이에
bucket destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality
안 넣어, 이
trait.
새끼야.
Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it for the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
오.
The Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend.
애착질이네.
For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
그래도 내 양동이를 버릴 수 없다고. 뭐야? 양동이 안 없앴으니까 다시 있겠죠 양동이. 뭐 바뀌었는데 양동이. 하이.
A good bucket.
양하.
A strong bucket. A humble bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
왼쪽. 가볼까?
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
찬미하라. 부자가 되는 건 범죄인가? 범죄를 저지르는 건 부자 아닌가? 여기서 밑으로 갈 수 있나? 위로 갈 수 있나? 위로? 뚝 따다다. 빨리 내려줘. 뭐야? 그렇게 오래 내려가? 얼마나 깊길래? 왜 이렇게 오래 내려가? 아니 뭐야? 아니 똑같잖아. 위로 올라가 봐야지. 나 속은 거야? 나 올라가는 줄 알았는데.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
양동이가 다 알고 있었다고. 우리 마법의 양동이는 모든 걸 알고 있어. 이제 그 정신집의 방으로 가보죠. 최종 방인 것 같은데 거의.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
딱.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
뭐 바뀌는 게 있을라나?
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs.
기니피그.
The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
안 열리는데요?
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never!
No!
He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
양동이와 함께 탈출하면 어떻게 되는 거지?
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place.
양동이랑 같이
As the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world.
어떻게 되는 걸까?
They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
양동이랑 같이 나가는 거니까 뭐 달라졌을 것 같은데.
Stanley and the bucket.
또 나가는 거지.
Was it over?
No?
Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy,
우리 같이 나가네.
freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to
양동이는 내
live
친구야.
once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and to...
뭐야? 멈췄어.
What? Wait, what was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the
양동이는
bucket
못
to
나가는
leave.
거야?
Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with
안
the
돼.
No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
뭘? 아니 양동이랑은 못 나가네 아예. 씨.
Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen.
뭐야?
Birds. Silly
멍청한
birds. The control buttons became active again.
뭐야? 왼쪽, 오른쪽.
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley...
행복했다는데요? 행복했으면 오케이지. 뭐야, 끝이야? 아니...
But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
자, 여기서 빨간 문, 파란 문 쪽이죠, 여기가. 여기서 빨간 문으로 들어가.
No, stop! Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless... What if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
아 싫은데 나 일로 가고 싶은데. 아 뭐야 이거? 뭐가 또 바뀌었는데요? 뭐야?
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not
맞추기?
a bucket. Okay, let's begin.
와 BGM 신나는 거 봐라.
Item 1.
이거 양동이
Is
아니잖아.
this a
그죠?
bucket?
아닌 것 같은데.
Correct. It is a hologram.
어씨 뭐야?
Actual bucket.
맞아? 뭐지? 아니 왜 어까야? 이걸 맞췄네.
Item 2. Is this a
이것도 아니야.
bucket?
진짜 맞았네.
Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
뭐지? 왜 맞추는 거야 나? 잘 맞추네. 역시 그 공대 졸업한
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
이때쯤이면 양동이. 와 뭐야?
Correct. This is a bucket.
아니 뭐야? 그냥 내가 맞는 대로 무조건 맞는 건가?
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
양동이지. 아니네.
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that
아니,
tills the earth.
지금까지 지랄해놓고.
Gimme. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one.
아니 아니 지금까지 개똥 이상한 거 맞춰놓고.
Is this a bucket?
이건 양동이지. 맞았죠?
Correct. This is a bucket.
아니 씨발 누굴 바보로 알아 얘네.
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
이건 아니지.
Trick
뭐야?
question. Both. Gotcha.
양동일 수도 있고 아닐 수도 있다. 약간 슈레딩거의 양동인가? 이거는 내가 이제 양동이라 하기
Wait,
전까지는
hold on. I
양동이가 아닌
can't
거지.
find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
뭐야? 이거 양동근일까요?
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that
안녕하세요.
nothing is a bucket?
예, 아무것도 없는 건 양동이에요.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat
나에게
confused.
물들어버렸구만.
Do any of us know what a bucket is?
여러분들 양동이가 뭔지
Am I
알까요?
a bucket?
아나요? 네
Stanley, I
양동이.
can't keep doing this.
뭐야?
I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all
에바야!
buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
에바임.
What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything
모든 게
bucket?
양동이었기 때문에.
Every single thing in the
게임이.
game was a bucket. Oh my god, I had no idea.
쉣.
How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a
여러분도
bucket
양동이
either.
아니야?
Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset
에바임.
everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person.
스포가
All right,
된다는 얘기인가?
here we go.
어? 돌아왔네요.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest
왼쪽으로
and
가보죠.
entered the door on his left.
아니 완전히 재시작했는데 게임을 완전히
Still
재시작할 걸
no one was
맞잖아.
here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth.
완전히 재시작할 걸? 메뉴로 돌아가고요. 바탕으로 나가고요. 완전히 재시작 한번 해볼게요. 얘 똑같다. 그러면은 뭐 어쩔 수 없죠. 남의 길을 참고해서 진엔딩만 볼 수밖에. 현지 시각 2시 45분? 점심시간 아니니까. 몇 시까지 올라나? AM으로 가야 되는데. 잠깐만요. 왜? 예. 에? 어? 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 보답? 무슨 보답? 당시 가장 좋아하는 시각으로 설정하라고? 뭐야? 일단 재시작했거든요? 게임 시작하겠습니다. 양동이가 없다? 그러면은 잠깐만. 뭐야?
All of his co-workers were gone.
일단
What could it
재시작됐어요.
mean?
아 진짜 좆같다. 5번 껐다 키라고? 맞아? 가장 좋아하는 시간? 이거 맞아? 현재 얼마 정확한가요? 몇 시인지 알아맞추겠다는 얘기인가? 아 뭐야? 아 다섯 번 해보고 안 나타나면은 꺼버려야겠다. 이렇게 다시 할 용기가 없어. 개와 고양이가 친구 될 수 있게 스트레스 조정하세요. 아 오케이. 5와 9 이거 뭐야? 방금 9 있었는데 분명. 그죠? 여기 있다. 중지할 때까지. 뿌슝빠슝. 네. 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 뭐야? 이게 할 때마다 달라지는데? 로고 그게 사진 고르기 같아. 다시 와줬어. 지금 몇 시죠? 정확히 알고 있긴 한가요? 하나는 아무것도 모릅니다. 당신 또한 서로에 대해 모르죠. 정확한 사양에 맞춰 게임을 설정해 모두 중에 누가 안 했겠어요? 그거 제가 내립니다. 끝났다고? 더는 제게 수집할 정보가 없습니다. 모든 자료를 가능한 한 전부 수집했대요. 그리고 나를 잘 모른답니다. 둘 다 지금 몇 시인지 모른다고? 나 알고 있는데? 시계는 게임에서 그 어떤 역할도 하지 않습니다. 다음번에 게임 시작할 때는 전 여기 없을 거예요. 아, 그게 제가 당신에 대해 정말로 알게 된 유일한 정보일지도 모르겠습니다. 이제 가야 할 시간이에요. 아, 조정해야 할 설정이 하나 더 남았다고? 찾을 수 있다면 다시 볼 수 있을 거라고요? 뭐야? 왜 이렇게 질척거려? 오! 에필로그다! 오! 떴어! 나는 그 도전까지 다 찾아가지고 띄웠다. 에필로그. 수많은 해가 지나고 에? 그 아까 나왔던 그 탈출구잖아. 뭐야? 걸으면 걷다 보면 뭐 나오겠? 난 자유인가? 뭐가 어떻게 된 거지? 감성 지린다, 그죠? 별도 이뻐. 하지만 사막은 밤 되면 오지게 추울 텐데. 죽는 거 아니야, 이거 뭐야, 이거? 어디로 가야 돼, 이거? 달 이쁘다. 달 이쁜데? 그러니까 모래 들어. 여기는 이제 선셋, 노을이네요. 뭐야? 추억의 공간도 무너졌잖아. 우리 스탠리 패러블의 뭐야 이거? 아, 작동하는데 얘는? 패러블 2? 으차. 계세요? 아무도 없나요? 뭐야? 쿠키 99 아까 그 스킵 버튼 만들어달라는 게 아니야? 다른 소평들과 마찬가지로 나는 원작 스탠리 패러블을 즐겼지만 이건 내가 소평에 얼마나 실망했는지를 보여준다. 독창적이라고 주목받던 전과 달리 스탠리 패러블 2는 지루하고 영감 또한 없으며 팬층을 모욕하기도 한다. 무한히 깊은 구멍? 누가 신경 쓴다고? 대신에 우리 영감도 없는 피규어를 모으는 사이드 퀘스트를 받는다. 심지어 이런 2편의 전환점조차 불안정하게 느껴진다. 그래도 한마디 하자면 나는 나 자신이 양동이에게서 꽤나 안정감을 얻는다는 것을 알았는데 양동이 성애자가 되어버렸네요, 그죠? 뭐야, 왜 안 가죠? 오케이. 스탠리 패러블 개발자들 스핀오프도 없고 속편도 없다. 게임을 하나의 프랜차이즈로 만들려고 계획했다. 하지만 더 스탠리 패러블 2에 대한 치명적인 비판과 상업적 이유는 오늘 출판된 보도자료에서 서술된 대로 개발자들에게 그들의 야망을 제거하게 되었다. 보도자료에는 죄송합니다라는 단어가 25번 이상 나온다. 그러니까 아까 짐 뭐 하나 다른 게 있지 않을까? 죄다 짐이야?
Jim.
어?
Stanley.
어? 드디어 이름을 제대로 말했어.
Stanley. 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 Jim. Jim. Stanley. Jim. Stanley.
이제야 날 불러주는구나.
Stanley.
고맙다. 너가 내 이름을 불렀을 때 나는 드디어 꽃이 되었다는. 피규어들이 내가 모은 피규어들이잖아. 기모띠 다 모아주고요. 25개나 모았네요. 들어가자. 내가 볼 때 이게 이제 트루 엔딩이지 않을까요? 그죠? 모든 요소를 다 하고 보고 나서 진행되는 에필로그이기 때문에. 또 오셨군요. 뭐야? 다시 만나 반갑습니다. 더는 스탠리 패러블 게임이 없으리라는 것을 알게 된 건 끔찍하군요. 개발자들이 뭐라고 했는지 읽어보셨죠? 프랜차이즈 완전성 유지? 말도 안 됩니다. 더 스탠리 패러블을 신성하지도 않고 보호할 필요도 없습니다. 유서는 여시나 먹으라지. 태양이 폭발할 때까지 더 스탠리 패러블 게임을 계속 만들어 나가봅시다. 이 프랜차이즈를 철저히 운영해보자고요. 지능탕을 헤쳐나가며 뒤에서부터 끌고 나갑시다. 사람들이 싫어한다면 어쩔 거냐고요? 알게 뭡니까? 아시다시피 그건 내레이터의 문제였습니다. 그는 사람들이 그의 작품을 어떻게 생각하느냐에 너무 집착했죠. 그와 똑같은 실수를 하지 마시기를. 유서는 연연하지 마시고 물타게 내버려 두세요. 어렵지 않습니다. 사실 제가 보여드리죠. 우린 함께 더 스탠리 패러블 3를 만들어 나갈 것입니다. 간단해요. 게임 타이틀 화면에서 숫자를 바꾸기만 하면 됩니다. 또한 이 게임을 위해 크고 화려하지만 정말로 멍청해 보이는 부제목이 필요하죠. 어서요. 우리 게임의 새로운 제목을 만들기 위해 임의의 단어를 조합해보세요. 원숭이. 뭐야? 선택이 되는 게 있고 안 되잖아. 처음 파괴 원숭이. 이 정도면 괜찮은 것 같은데. 파괴 원숭이. 우스꽝스럽군요. 마음에 듭니다. 게임을 다시 시작할 때마다 속편의 수를 하나씩 추가한 다음 새로운 부제를 골라내겠습니다. 그렇게 된다면 더 스탠리 패러블은 영원히 끝나지 않겠죠. 그리고 당신이 이걸 계속하더라도 게임 그 자체는 아무것도 변하지 않을 것입니다. 더 많은 콘텐츠를 추가하는 것은 마치 작업처럼 느껴지죠. 그럴 필요 없습니다. 그냥 똑같은 내용일 뿐이고 계속해서 재령되며 매번 새로운 메인 화면이 나올 거예요. 어떻게 생각하시나요? 이 계획을 추진해야 할까요? 저야 좋지만 당신에게도 발언권이 있었으면 좋겠습니다. 하자! 좋아요. 동의하신 거죠? 이제 게임을 새로 시작할 때마다 새로운 속편이 제작될 겁니다. 그리고 말이죠. 제 아이디어를 믿어주신 것에 대해 저도 뭔가 보답해드리고 싶습니다. 아시다시피 저는 내레이터가 당신에게 고장난 도전 과제를 줄 방법을 찾지 못했다는 걸 알게 됐습니다. 그가 방법을 찾았나요? 물론 아니겠죠. 기대도 안 했습니다. 계속 그게 거슬리더군요. 제가 고쳐놓겠습니다. 좋아요. 다 됐습니다. 도전 과제 기기가 완전히 수리됐어요. 보셨죠? 저는 당신 편입니다. 한 배를 탄 거니까요. 우리는 이 배를 계속 유지해야 합니다. 더 스탠리 패러블은 절대 끝날 수 없습니다. 계속해서 굴레를 반복해야 하죠. 영원히. 저는 계속해서 방향틀을 돌려내야 합니다. 전 준비됐습니다. 당신도 준비됐나요? 좋습니다. 이제 해야 할 것이 딱 한 가지 남았습니다. 입력하세요. 정확히 입력해볼까요? 19분. 컴퓨터가 보이지 않을 때까지. 더 스탠리 패러블을 재밌게 즐겨주세요. 와우. 더 스탠리 패러블 3 파괴 원숭이. 나왔네요. 파괴 원숭이. 자, Destructive Monkey. 파괴 원숭이 스탠리. 다시 할 때마다 부제가 하나씩 늘어난다 했었나? 부제 하나 더 추가해보죠. 그리고 끝내야겠다. 따라라. 도전과제 기계 고쳤다 했나? 아, 여기 추가. The Stanley Parable 4. 귀신 같은 남자친구. The Stanley Parable 4 귀신 같은 남자친구 편. 아니 이거 계속 되는 거야? 계속? 이거 계속 되는 거임? 어이가 없네. 무조건 올라가나봐 하나씩. 뭐지? 자스 5. 똑같이 파괴 원숭이 할 수 없잖아. 용서할 수 없는 감사. 용서할 수 없는 감사. 뭐야 이건? 몇 개만 더 하면 되는데. 자, 5번이지? 아무렇게나 한번 해보죠, 이름. 6, 7, 8, 3번만 하면 되네. 구워진 컴퓨터 바이러스. 됐고요. 바탕화면 갔다가 다시. 대부분 다 왔다. 그래도 이 도전까지 다 모으고 이 정도 했으면은 내가 볼 때 이게 진엔딩 같은데. 완전히 뭐라 해야 되지? 근데 진엔딩에 도대체 해석을 어떻게 되냐. 제왕의 구멍 좀 야하네요 이거는. 약간 우리 유저가 만들어 나가는 게임 이런 느낌으로 해준 건가? 우리가 선택하는 게임이니까 우리가 게임도 뭐 만들라 이거 아니야? 자, 이번이 8번째인가? 이번 8번째다. 진격의 아기. 8번째. 이게 진격의 아기야? 일단 게임 시작. 맞네. 사무실 안 나오네.
Hold on. What's this?
8.
8.
8. 8. 8.
The Stanley Parable 8? No, this doesn't look right at all. The Stanley Parable takes place in an office building. There are
8.
doors and branching paths. This is just a button that says 8.
8.
Where did the Stanley Parable go?
8.
8.
8.
8.
8. 8.
뭐야, 끝이야?
8. 8.
8. 이게 끝이야?
8. 8. 8.
다시 시작하기. 똑같네 이래도.
Hold on.
8.
What's